I've spoken with Carlos Guzman about the importance of planning and teamwork to make any outsourcing initiative a success. Top of that, he also provided a lot of insights on what you should outsource and what you should keep inside your company. Just a hint, it's all about your core. He was also very open with two horror stories that he went through and the lessons that he has learned from them. Hello, Ederson Oliveira here. This is another interview for the Outsourcing Podcast, where I talk to experts, specialists, business owners that do a lot of outsourcing, and we pick their brains and to help us avoid some of the pains, some of the pitfalls that comes with outsourcing. And today I have with me Carlos Guzman. He is the CEO at Grupo Arion e Prospect Factory. Carlos, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Carlos, let me start with the basics here. Where are you located and what is your business about? Give me the spiel here.
Okay, we are located in Mexico City, and we also have an office in San Jose, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley. And we basically have two companies. One of them provides licensing and development and service on ITSM solutions, meaning everything that an IT department needs to buy for their own use. Usually an IT department buys technology for other users and they manage it and provide infrastructure. But there's a few components in the software plane that the IT department buys for themselves to control processes. And we provide that. So one of the companies is a BMC Remedy solution partner, and we provide those solutions. They are enterprise solutions, and for that reason, we have a handful of around 10 or 12 customers that we work with, but they are really big customers. And then the other company is Prospect Factory, which is a digital marketing agency. And within Prospect Factory, we have two areas. One area takes care of the end customer, and the other area takes care of small agencies and WSI consultants that produce through us. So we are a white label agency that works for other agencies, and we provide basically all digital marketing services for them.
Got it. Okay. So now let's tie this back here to our main topic, which is outsourcing. Sure. First, I would like to ask you, because different people will have different, I guess, slightly different understandings about what outsource is. My concept is a bit too open, but I'm curious to hear from you. What do you call outsourcing?
Well, outsource is a way of working your company where you go to a third party and get expertise or get additional capacity or get very special technology that you don't have in-house. So basically outsourcing allows you to expand your business by using a third-party resource that you don't have in-house and that you can hire either per case or in a continuous way, but you don't want to manage. So probably the most typical understanding of outsourcing is for people. But I think you can outsource a number of resources. There's people that specialize in outsourcing software or probably some other resources. But people and talent and skills would be the most common way of understanding outsourcing.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Love that perspective. Now, if I ask you, what do you outsource? Because it sounds like you also provide some outsourcing service. But before we touch that side of your business, let's look at the other side. You, as a client of outsourcing providers, what do you outsource?
Well, basically, my business, I've been on the market for the digital agency. We've been on the market a little bit more than 13 years. And I started myself, and everything was outsourced. So I was outsourcing web development. I was outsourcing AdWords campaigns. I was outsourcing SEO services, design, management for continuous ongoing campaigns. So that's the way I grew. That's the way I was able to leverage my company without getting into payroll nightmares from the beginning. And I was just contracting and hiring resources per project as I needed and as I was seeing fit. So basically, I started like that. Now, there was a point in which I needed to start having some resources in-house. I didn't want. I mean, that was not my original plan. But in some cases, you have like very picky companies, very picky clients, or maybe some enterprise clients that expect to see some headcount on your side, and they want you to bring your team to a meeting, and they want you to have your team like very on demand, and they want to call and they want to have these people on the phone, on the Skype. So there was a point in which I needed to decide to bring some resources in-house. But up to today, I keep outsourcing things. Today, I outsource, for example, writers. So most of our writing department is outsourced. We outsource some design, some we do it in house, some we do it out. We outsource web development. We have a web development team here that has certain set of skills and certain capacity. So when we need more capacity, we go and outsource, or when we need some specific skills that we don't have in-house, we outsource. And obviously, for big projects in which you have to assemble a team very fast and be up and running for that project for a limited period of time, outsourcing is it's a perfect fit. For example, we work in the digital part. One of the areas of specialty that we have is social listening. And social listening is a service that you sometimes provide for political people that's going to elections. So their campaigns are limited, and you need to assemble teams for 2 or 3 or 4 months, and that's it. So you cannot hire the people and train the people and wait for the people to be ready. You have to go out, search for the correct skills, outsource the team, have it on board for 3 4 months, and then that's it. You close the project, the outsource team is gone, and then ready for another project. So that depends on the type of project. But today, I am basically outsourcing most of the services that we provide in-house. We also outsource either for skills or for extended capacity.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. So you brought a good point, which is you had to make a decision of growing a local team because your high-end clients, they needed to see headcounts.
Correct.
But again, you still outsource a lot. So when is the time and the reason why you, okay, this I will not outsource, I'll keep it in house? How do you decide what you keep in house and what you give away? How you decide that?
Well, aside from the capacity and skills considerations that I talked about, there's another one that's very important, which is the strategic position of your company. So, for example, in digital services, there's a whole bunch of services that you need to have in-house, or either provide to your customer, even if it's outsourced. But there's going to be a couple of services that are core, that are where you're going to be basing your strategy. I would say that those core services are the ones that I do not outsource. So, for example, today, SEO, we outsource very small part of SEO because SEO is strategic for us, and we provide a lot of knowledge and training to our people, and we develop our people, and we cannot do that as freely with an outsourced resource. So when you define a core service, for example, in the part of social listening, analysis, mathematical analysis, interpretation of reports, providing suggestions to the client, those parts are very keen to our core, and we do that in-house. For example, web development. Web development is not core to our company, and it used to be, but it's not today. So it's something that we are tending to outsource more and more and more because it's become a commodity. You can find web developers of world quality in many places, locally and internationally. So there's no, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have people on payroll for uh, for things that are not core, where I can find those skills fast and easy on the street. So I would say that core services, whatever is core to your strategy, whatever you are building differentiation upon on that, that's where I would not do outsourcing. That's where I would keep in-house, and that makes the decision very easy. Because now, if you want to decide to outsource something or not, then you just have to ask yourself: is this core? Is this strategic for my company? Is this part of my differentiation? If the answer is yes, then my suggestion is to do that in-house and then outsource the rest.
Got it. I love that point, Carlos. I love the point of, is it core? Yes or no? If it's yes, yes, we keep it in house. If it's no, let's find a partner that we can outsource that to. I mean, I really love that criteria. It's a very clear cut, and as you're saying, it makes it easy to make that decision of, should I outsource this or should I keep it in house? Now, let's circulate it back into once again in the outsourcing arena here. So how do you pick, how do you choose, how do you select an outsourcing partner, an outsourcing provider? What's your process there?
Most of our outsourcing partners, we've been working with them for quite some time. So if I go back to like the initial contact and the first time we decided to work with them, well, we evaluated first how committed they were to the project, and you feel that very fast. If you have a project and you submit a request for information or a request for proposal to an outsourcing provider, you will see how committed they are to the project. They will answer you very fast. They will come back with questions. If part of your information is incomplete, they will ask you the correct questions. They will guide you to complete the scope. So that gives you the first information of how committed they are to the project. Then a little bit of research in terms of their infrastructure. You don't want to outsource to a one-man company, and then if the guy gets sick, you are on a problem. So you need to really understand their infrastructure and how will they react to an emergency case in which one employee gets sick or has vacation or something. Because one of the reasons you outsource is because that problem, you want that problem to be his problem, not your problem. So you are hiring a service, and if the developer is sick, then they need to be able to put a new developer in place and keep with the project. So evaluate the way they are infrastructure and the resources. That's a second point. Third point, I would do a little bit of reputation research. Look for what people is saying on social. Google them. Try to go and find a little bit of them. If you ask them to give you a reference, it's not going to be very valid because they will give you their best client. But sometimes that works. At least some of the clients will be very sincere, and they will tell you, well, they are very good in this, but be careful with this, because sometimes in these different stages of project, they might be a little bit slow, or probably they would need you to push them a little bit. So do a little bit of cross-reference checking and see how they are performing with other clients. And another thing is that I always give them an initial small project. I want to test the grounds. I want to test the waters. I want to see how we fit, how we communicate. Do they understand me? Do I understand them? Do they are they committed to the delivery dates? Do they really deliver on time? how's the quality of their delivery, the documentation, everything. So a small pilot project, it's always a good idea. And with some providers, we have even done pilot projects for our own in-house needs, not
Got
for
it.
another customer, in which we know that if something goes wrong, we're not going to be hurting another a client. So do a pilot project, and it's like, when they say that when you want to get to know somebody, you must travel with that person because that's where you really know the people. Well, engage in a small trip of a small project with a supplier, leave it, experiment it, see how they react, see how you react, see how you communicate, and then you'll have a pretty good feeling of how this provider might result with bigger, more complex projects. Another thing that is important is to evaluate how good they manage the non-technical part. Do they invoice correctly? Do they invoice in time, with time? Do they have a contract? Does the contract really reflect the payment schedule that you agreed? You don't want to have surprises in terms of the administrative part. I have a supplier that we were already engaged in the beginning of a project when he told me that he could not accept payments through PayPal. And I said, how come? I mean, I just gave it as a fact. I work with all my suppliers with PayPal, but we were already engaged and he told me he did not accept payments on PayPal. Okay, so we said, okay, we will wire you the funds. We will do a transfer to you every time we need to make a payment. But wiring funds has a cost on both sides. And he wanted me to pay for the cost on both sides. So at the end, we finally found a common middle terrain for us in which we were able to work. But that was a surprise. So make all the questions and do it. Actually, you should have like your own questionnaire of all the questions you need your supplier to answer before you really engage in a project, because you don't want to have any surprises at the end.
Got it. Very, very, very good point about an initial trial. I really like the initial trial. Start small. I mean, I do the comparison with dating and marrying. You start to date, and again, you don't go marrying someone right after the first date. You have to
Sure.
go out for a while before you marry. That's really it. Carlos,
Sure.
another point here is here's something that I have a hard time. I have a hard time because myself as a EU, yeah, it seems so that I work with contractors, I work with outsourcing providers, but I have a hard time, a very hard time allowing those providers to have direct contact with my clients. Not because they might steal them or nothing like that, but it's just about how will they reflect whatever they do. It will reflect on my company, it will reflect on me. So my question to you is, do you allow or do you have a process to say, hey, this provider here, they can have direct contact with the client and this cannot? I mean, do you have anything like that?
We do not allow direct contact with my client to any supplier alone. So whenever we need to have that contact, my project manager will be present and he will be the one coordinating and managing the conversation. And he will be the one that needs to answer yes or no to a customer request. And then after the conversation, he will touch base again with the technical people on the background. So we accept a meeting in which my outsourcing supplier can be present. Usually they would be virtual meetings, but not alone. And all communications need to go through my project manager. And the project manager is an in-house resource. It's a second level manager that reports direct to me and that has the correct criteria to make a decision on the spot, on the fly, and answer answer to whatever requests or concerns the customer has.
Got it.
Now you have to add an additional component, and because we are living in a global world, many times the outsourcing partner is in another part of the world in another language. So imagine us outsourcing to India, where we have 13 and a half hours time difference, and their English, you do not get the English from people from India in the first conversation. It's not easy, even though you might be, you might speak well English, good English. So having that person connect directly with your customer with the time difference and the language barrier, it's a challenge. So you really need in the middle somebody that translates and that knows the scope of the project, that can go into both languages. If something needs to be clarified, he switches into Spanish and he chats with the customer in Spanish, and then they come back to the English conversation. But and we have had outsourcing partners in Afghanistan, in India, in US. Actually, we have had outsourcing partners in Latin America. And even though we both speak in Spanish, it's not the same Spanish. So you really need to have like your own resource translating the conversation.
Got it.
That's my feeling.
But on that point, beyond translation, actually, aside of translation, do you introduce them as a separate entity, or that becomes transparent and you don't mention anything? I mean, it's just part of the team. I mean, do you make it clear that it's an outside entity, or do you just blend that in as part of the team?
We have both cases. There are projects in which we do not transparent to the customer that we have an outsourcing partner. We only tell them that this is our developer, this is our designer. The designer and the developer know that they should not mention their own company, that they are part of our team. And that usually happens in small to medium projects.
Okay.
Now, when it is a very big project that requires a lot of skills, specific, very specialized skills, I am usually the sales guy. So what I do, I am very transparent with the customer, and I tell them that his project is going to require skills that we do not necessarily have in-house, but that we do have the resources through partners that usually work with us, and that I am going to assemble a team, and that the team is going to be comprised by people from my company as well as people from my partners, and that once the team is assembled, for the customer, is going to be transparent because I'm going to be the sole point of contract and contact for him, but that in any case that's needed, we will have the resources and the team in a meeting, and so I make it transparent, because you cannot tell the customer that you are good in everything. I mean, that's not even credit. That doesn't add to your credibility. So if you're transparent with the customer and you tell them that certain part of a project is out of your own skills, but you do have the resources through a partner, that they usually understand it. And in the world we live today, it's very often and very common that complex projects are done by multiple skills from all over the world, and if they are managed on a single direction and there's one fronting company, usually the customer understands this. So it depends on the size of the project. Sometimes I will make it transparent, some other times I will not.
I get it. And one thing that I have seen before is that some clients, once we let them know that we are also working with partners, they raise the flag of, okay, so how secure are they? I mean, and of course, it depends on the project, it depends on a lot of many different factors, but sometimes I hear that, oh, okay, so are you sending this over to India, to the Philippines, and they start to feel a little bit insecure about what they're doing. I mean, have you seen that? Have you seen that type of reaction before?
Oh yes, yes, yeah.
How do you address that? How do you go about addressing that?
Well, we usually try to understand on the different components of a project what are those components that are really vulnerable to security things, okay? Because, and one of them, for example, if you're talking web development, it's gonna be the database and it's gonna be the hosting environment and probably the code of a very specific module in the website that performs certain functionality that's gonna bring differentiation to that project. So for those components, what we usually do is, well, obviously we sign NDAs with our customer, and we have the partner sign an NDA, and sometimes the partner will sign an NDA with us, and they will also sign the NDA with the partner. So if I am being transparent of a team of other partners in the project, I also tell the customer that they are going to be signing the same NDA with them and with me. So it's going to be a back-to-back NDA. And then everything that's very sensible, for example, databases and data, what we do is we usually, for example, for a database that you need to put in a website, we take just a small sample of the database for testing, and that's what we use for an outsourcing partner. And then once the functionality and the module is complete and it has proven that it works with a small set of the database, then we bring that back in-house to my team. And then when we're gonna deploy the volume data or import the rest of the data, then we will certainly do it in-house and make the customer the assurance that that part is gonna be done by us. Now, when you go to other type of projects, for example, let's say a social listening gig in which you are going to be capturing lots of big data regarding your customer, product, and his competitors, and that's very sensitive data. Their competition can get that data as well if they hire a similar service, but it's expensive. So at the end, that data, it's something that's very sensitive. So what we do is we encourage the customer to set up an information, a data repository that's central to everybody of us, a paid Dropbox or something that he controls. We help him set the repository to him with his own passwords. Then he provides access to us while we're gonna be developing the project. That's where we place everything. So he has the assurance that whenever we are gone and whenever he needs us out, he will just cut out the access for us and he will keep the information for himself. But it depends a lot on what the nature of the project is and where are the potential vulnerabilities on security issues. And then sometimes you have to go an extra mile. We have had customers in which for certain parts of the project, they have requested us to go to their premises and work in their premises. So they will give us access to the database or access to the SEO software where they have all their keywords and all the historic rankings of their pages. And we do the job there. And we have accepted that. But that becomes a challenge for outsourcing, because an outsourced resource will not be that open to go and work on the premises of your client. So once we detect all those issues, we might have the outsourcing partner do part of the job, and then we will do the other part ourselves. And sometimes that implies going to the customer premises. And that is why I think the dual model of having your own resources and having resources outside works. Because sometimes, because of confidentiality, security, strategic position, the customer is gonna be feeling more comfortable if you provide certain parts of the project, of the service with your own resources than if you outsource that. So that depends on the customer and the service.
I get it. I get it. Okay. Okay. So one of the ways that we, learn a lot as business owners, is when things go wrong. And I can only imagine with many years in the business, over 10 years in the business, that you have come across what I usually refer to as horror stories, stories that, and again, that you lived through with outsourcing partners. So I'd like you to maybe refer back to an early experience or maybe something that's going on now. I don't know. I'll leave it open to you. But is there any story that you have gone through in terms of outsourcing that went bad, and you have some lessons learned from that experience that you can share with us?
Yes, yes. I have a couple. For example, one, this is one case in which we were open with the customer in terms of the outsourcing partner. And so the outsourcing resource was part of the email group where we were exchanging all information. So he was part of the email conversation with the customer. Okay. So the customer, he was going to some legal thing in which he was getting back his brand from a third party, and we were developing the digital presence of that brand for him. But we were doing this at the same time as he was negotiations with the third party. So they had not finished the negotiations yet, and the brand was not his yet. He was in that part of making negotiations.
Okay.
But at the same time, we were developing everything for him. And there was an email in which the customer received a request from the third party he was negotiating with. And he took that email and he sent it to us, to the rest of the team, as information, as for your eyes only information.
Got it.
The developer answers that email copying to everybody, including the third party.
Wow.
By the way, did not know that we were already developing all these web properties for the client. The client was like already, he wanted to be ready. So the day he signed the brand agreement with the other party, like the next day he would be ready to go online. Okay, but he was already using the brand without permission.
I get it.
Okay, so my developer copies everybody. The third party recognizes that there's already work being done with his brand, because at that point it was still his brand. He had not handed the brand to my customer, and a very big conflict comes to us. My customer was engaged in he had to like restart the whole negotiation with the third party because the third party got mad. Whoa. And we lost the client. We basically lost the client because the client thought, with good reason, that we had there was a breach of information. We had not been confidential, that we had used confidential information for the third party. So we lost the client and we lost the project. And it was because the developer of my partner, which was probably a middle level or low level management person, more a developer or a designer, he did not took care of seeing who he was copying the email to. So that's one reason. So today, what we do is we do not engage partners in email groups or email communications. If there's an email communication, we go to the customer, we get the information, then we go to the partner, we provide information, and we become the bridge that makes sure that information that flows from one side to another is the correct information for that person. But that's one thing that we learned from there.
I get it.
I think we have another example of a customer where we're doing email marketing for them. Obviously, they had their most important asset was the database, and he provided us a database of probably more than 250,000 names that they have been captured through their website throughout a couple of years. It's an e-commerce website, a very big one that even is doing TV commercials to engage people to go to online e-commerce. And we sent a test. One of my people that was doing an email campaign to another customer, when he assembled a test, he selected the database incorrectly, and he sent the test to the testing sample of my customer.
I get it.
Okay, so the owner of the company receives this test from another company. It was a test, it was only sent to 5 people. But he comes back and he asks me, what is this? And I say, oh, sorry, it's a test that we're doing for another customer. And we unfortunately sent you the test to our testing group, which was 2 or 3 people from his company, 2 or 3 people from mine. But that made visible a breach in security that we had. Because if we were open to do an error with a controlled testing environment, sending the message of client A to the client B, that meant we could have done that with the main message and the main database. And he was correct. So basically, we did not do an error that had any implications, but the error made our security visible to the customer, and he became very afraid that we didn't have the security things in place, and he canceled the contract.
I mean, again, I really appreciate you being that open, Carlos. I mean, it's unusual that someone would be as open as you are with what you're saying, But let me tell you this: whenever we are dealing with humans, I know we should have processes, we should have checks and bounces and QAs and processes to avoid those things. But my take on business and on dealing with people is that if you are dealing with someone else, you are prone to have problems there. It's not about if, it's really when. Right. And you have to prepare yourself to, whenever that happens, this is how I'm going to behave here. And as you did, you own it to your client. And yes, the client went someplace else, but hey, you did what you needed to do, which was own it. But again, very, very good points. And here's the thing: the first example that you give, it's all about communication, and it's a problem that I also have here and there is miscommunication of people replying to people that are not supposed to be replying to. They intended to reply internally to us, and they reply to the client. So this is so common, Carlos. Okay, very good. Thank you for that. So I'd like to shift. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, can I add a little bit of this? Just a couple of comments.
Sure.
And going back to your original question on how we evaluate an outsourcing partner, when the outsourcing partner has enough years in the market, we can be sure that he has had all those mistakes, because it's only when, okay? So if you've been in the market long enough, you have come to all those errors and mistakes and problems. And when you choose a partner that's been in the market long enough, you can be sure that he has lived through those errors already, and very probably he will not engage on those errors with you because he has already put in place, controls not to generate those errors again. So switching back, if I am the supplier partner for somebody, when they are evaluating me, that's something that I usually tell them, that I have done all the errors for them, that if they do this in-house today and they start to do this in-house today, they will start doing a lot of errors through time that's gonna cost them money. If they outsource with me, many of those errors and those learnings are already in my DNA, and we can make sure that we use that experience for my customer. So that's part of the evaluation. if you sometimes you people tend to go with very young outsourcing companies because they have the skills, they have the creativity, they have the stamina. It's young people with a lot of nerve and they want to do things great, but very probably they do not have the experience, and they have not been in the bad moments. Because if you ask me of good campaigns and good experiences, I will tell you tens and hundreds of them. But I can also tell you tens of my errors, and those errors have forced us to put in place controls. And when you engage with a company that has been in outsourcing or a partner or a supplier for quite some time, you can be sure that they have done everything in their scope to avoid committing those errors again with you. And that's part of the evaluation.
Got it. Got it. And actually, that's a great segue because now let's turn the table here. Which and so far we have discussed about you hiring and contracting outsourcing providers. But if I got your business, the other part of your business right, you also provide some outsourcing services to big corporation on their IT infrastructure. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that because now you are providing outsourcing services as well. So how how do you take on that other side of your business? Of this time around, you are a provider of outsourcing services. How do you manage that relationship with a client being yourself an outsourcing provider?
Okay, I will tell you that any time that you spend as a supplier with with your customer, trying to provide more detail into the scope of the project, more specifics in which in that define what the customer is expecting from you. Any time that you spend planning is the best time that you could spend. You need to be patient and understand that the customer not always knows what they want. The customer maybe has a high level idea of what he's expecting from your service, but they have not had the time to engage on the bits and bytes and the details of the operational experience they want to have with you. And that's mainly the reason they are hiring you. They don't have the time to think on those things. But once they hire you, you need to spend a lot of time with them on planning, mapping, scoping, talking to people, and making a good plan of whatever you're going to be operating, managing, or delivering for them. If you jump into operation right away and you are trying to start tomorrow and you do not spend enough time in planning, scoping, then you're going to be reworking. The customer is not going to be happy. You're going to be spending more hours than what you thought you're going to be spending on this customer. Probably the account will go unprofitable for this reason. So I would say the first step is you have to be very patient with the customer, understand that he does not know everything, and that is why he's hiring you, and sit with him and his team and scope the project to the most detail you can do. And then engage on operating and managing and developing the project. So planning is I cannot stress that enough. I can tell you that the projects in which we go for more time, we engage in more time that we planned, or the projects in which we have a little bit of disagreements with the customer, if you go back to the roots of those projects, it all starts in a bad scoping of the project. If you scope the project correctly and you invest the time to do this, then the success factor is much higher and you have a better opportunity of delivering on time and delivering to what the customer expectations are. So scoping and planning, first stage, very important.
Got it. One thing, if I may interrupt you, Carlos, one thing that I missed asking is because I jumped right away into you as an outsourcing provider. But prior to that, I should have asked, what is it that you provide, some of the services that you provide as an outsourcing provider to your clients? What are they?
Okay, well, on the IT company, we provide setup, configuration, and mapping of the software tools that we sell them. And then once the tool is ready to deploy, we provide maintenance of that software piece, which includes any malfunctions that need to be solved, includes upgrading the version of the software whenever a new version comes out from the manufacturer, includes knowledge transfer to their people or to any new people that comes on board, and includes any changes or modifications that they want to do to the setup. So basically what we do is in some customers, we even assign a full-time person or a full-time team to be with the customer and take care of all the needs of the first of the setup and configuration, and then the operation of the tool, of the software tool. In some other cases, we sell a maintenance contract for a certain number of hours in which they outsource all these services to ourselves, but they are usually handled by a resource on my staff that takes care of probably 2 or 3 accounts. But on the IT company, that's what we provide. If I switch to the digital marketing agency, well, we provide there all the digital services. We provide web development, a lot of SEO campaigns, social listening campaigns, content development, obviously AdWords and PPC a lot. I have a good staff of community managers. For example, we have in-house community managers and we have outsourced community managers that work from home, and all the advertising in social media. So actually my price list for the digital agency is around 22 or 23 different services that small agencies can outsource from us.
Got it. Carlos, just a side note, and if you can be briefly on that, is what is social listening? Because that's not a term that I hear that often. What is social? I have a clue, but I'd like you to expand a little bit on that. What is social listening?
Okay, social listening is when you go out to the web and you capture all the conversations and all the mentions regarding a certain topic, product, brand, person, government agency, and you get all that information into which is really big data, and you get that into very big databases, and then you use software to segment, correlate, and detect all those conversations and mentions that the people are throwing into the web through social networks, blogs, news, forums, comments. And then that social listening helps you understand an audience. So let's say that you are, for example, a brand of tennis shoes, and you are going to be launching a new model that has very specific type of decorations on the shoe. And you want to understand how the people feel about tennis shoes that are decorated, about the colors, about the brand, about the competitor's brand before you engage into a campaign. I always say that you have to listen before you speak. So people that engage on a social media campaign without previously listening to their audience, they are just going to be posting and putting messages in things that they think are going to be interesting for their audience, but they have not checked on that. They have not listened to their audience before they go out and communicate. The same for a government program. The government usually goes and makes surveys, but you make a service to what, 200 or 400 or 1,000 people regarding a government program when you are serving millions of people. So you really need to go out, and then if you do controlled questions, The data that comes back, it's not always as believable because people are answering a question. With social media, you go out and you capture all the conversations and all the mentions that people are voluntarily putting into the web. And then from there, you build the behavior and the likes and the dislikes of an audience, and you understand the audience. You even learn about the terms and the words that they use when they refer to a brand, to a person, to a government. And from that, you can really define and design a better campaign. Campaigns that are more engaging, because when you start communicating to your audience, you do it with a previous learning on how the audience is already talking about that topic on the web. So that's social listening. It's a big data process in which you compile information and then you analyze. You look for sentiment analysis. You look for the most important influencers. You look for terms and volumes, for a cloud of terms. You do a very big analysis, and then you go back, and with that, you can design a better campaign. That's social listening.
Love it, love it. Thanks very much for the thorough explanation there, Carlos. Carlos, we are coming towards an end here. If I ask you, what is the one thing that you'd like people that watch the interview to live with about outsourcing as a provider, as a client as well? What is the one thing that you'd like people to live with this conversation?
Well, outsourcing is a team work. If you are the customer and you decide to outsource, that doesn't mean that you are now free to do anything, that because the supplier is going to do everything. It's not going to happen that way. And if you are the supplier, you cannot think that by getting an outsourcing contract, you can do everything by yourself without the customer being engaged. I think that outsourcing does not work if both parts are not involved. So understanding the level of involvement that each party has on the process, it's very important, because that is what's going to assemble a team, and that's going to be the reason that the rest of the components work. I mentioned a lot about planning and scoping, but planning and scoping can only work if both parts understand that it needs to be done by the team. I, as a supplier, cannot scope a project if I do not get enough information from the customer, and if he does not dedicate time to me to communicate to me what he wants from the project. And if that doesn't happen, and for example, I am a supplier of any outsourcing services, and the customer does not communicate with me, then very probably the service that I supply is not gonna be exactly what the customer expected, because he did not dedicate the time to scope the service to me, and I did not make the correct questions, and he didn't give me the answers. So what I would say is everybody needs to understand that it is a teamwork, and once that is set, then the second part and the most important, and I know you only said one, but I need to reinforce these two: teamwork and then scoping. Scoping and planning. If there's a good teamwork spirit, and then both parts invest in planning and scoping accordingly and correctly, then the project should be successful. But if there's not a teamwork, or if they do not spend the time on scoping and planning, the project is going to be a nightmare for both parts. And that's the only thing that we do not want. Everybody gets into an outsourcing project with a lot of hope and a lot of enthusiasm. But if they do not invest enough time in scoping and planning, and they do not understand that it's a teamwork, the enthusiasm is going to go away very, very fast, and the project is not going to be successful.
Yeah, I guess that to your point, we have this illusion that, okay, we outsource this, it's out of our hands, we have nothing to do with this anymore, and it's done. But it's not like that. This is delusion. Perfect. Carlos,
That is
Carlos, again, thank you very much for your time, for your knowledge, for sharing so much here, for being so open. I really appreciate the fact that you were very open. Let me ask you this: how can people reach out to you? How can people contact you if they, have questions or may want to engage on your services? How can people reach out to you?
Okay, we have two websites with two blogs that usually provide a lot of information. The one for the digital marketing agency, it's at prospectfactory.com.mx, prospectfactory.com.mx. And the other one is in the IT company, which is grupoarion.com.mx. It's and we try to write and publish some of these concepts through a couple of blogs. And then from there, you can go to our social channels and everything.
Perfect. So just a quick note, all the links that were mentioned here by Carlos or myself will all be on the show notes available to anybody to link there. So Carlos, again, thank you very much. I really appreciate your help here and see you sometime soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.